Yes, hello tradies. Welcome to season 4, episode 5. Things just starting to take shape a little bit on the AFL ladder for season 2026 and things starting to take shape in the tradies office. Welcome, Mitchell.
The ladder's hard to read at the moment, isn't it? Clubs are on buys, clubs are having breaks. Some have played 3, some have played 4.
The ladder for me is pretty easy to read. Carlton the third last.
Sounds like another year for the Blues.
And Essendon the second last.
Want to unpack the Blues and the
Sorry,
Bombers
I wasn't taking pleasure in that.
a bit this year. Keen to get to our top dozen midfielders of the last 25 years as well.
So I don't want to do this straight off the top, but I would like to say, and it's very rare that I get serious on this pod. I'm not doing lists anymore. That's the last one. I don't care.
I still remember our first meeting for this podcast 4 years ago. Sam, we are not a listicle podcast.
Yeah, because do you know why? Because it's cheap, it's easy, and it's lazy.
So is the A grade as a list?
That's a good point. No, the A grade is thought through, and the A grade is months of preparation.
So you haven't worked. I spent an hour on my top dozen.
I reckon I spent 3.5.
It's thought through.
I can't believe you only spent an hour. How cheap?
Got other things to do.
I spent so long. Actually, you and I were texting last night, late.
It was after midnight.
And we were having very different lives. You had little Sophia trying to get to sleep.
She got down about 1:15.
Okay. Whereas I was prepping for tradies while watching Married at First Sight, and it was a bumper episode, by the way. I'm still shook about it. It's the last week of Married at First Sight, which begs the question: what am I going to do when it finishes?
Yeah,
I actually don't
watch that.
know.
But I think about that in footy season. What do I do after that? And
what
do I do when the Big Bash ends? Like these are things that go through my head.
It's like Christmas for me when footy ends. The last day of trade period is like Christmas.
Yeah, there is a good relief on that final deadline day, isn't there?
You just said that you hated it.
No, like once the game's in, like how do I fill in my time? What do I do? Like,
what do you do? Well, you now have a child, so that helps.
Might start watching movies.
So we better start at your photo shoot.
Okay.
For my newspaper.
Yeah. Who would have ever thought?
So just to be clear about this, and I know Stephen Brook, the author, is now a Tradies listener. That's good. So we've gained one.
The feedback got back to him.
So Stephen Brook, who works for The Age, which is owned by Channel 9.
Correct.
This is just last time I checked.
Tick.
Has written a behind-the-scenes piece.
About footy oh, no.
Painting the most rosy picture of the team at Thursday night footy. Is that an accurate reflection?
How we all love each other, the camaraderie.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. There was it was all very flowery.
We're on our best behaviour for the cameras on Thursday night.
It felt like that. Even some of the quotes from BT, I was like, really? But what I would really like to get to is your involvement and explicitly the photos of you.
Yeah. So I was a bit flat because normally I sit in the production meeting on Thursday night footy and I wasn't in the production meeting photos because I had to go for news commitments. My news commitments that night were a bit earlier. I had a John Newcomb chat that was required during the broadcast production. Yep. So I'm presuming Stephen and the team at The Age decided how are we going to make up for Mitch not being in that. So we have to go send the cameras down to the boundary and get a bit more content.
Now, here's where it gets interesting, Link. And welcome to you, by the way.
Hi, Sam.
Great to have you.
Thanks. We'll get to Link in a moment.
So information has come across my desk during the week that because Ruby, our social media expert, was asking me offline to get the photos of you.
Offline?
For tradies.
This convo is offline.
Yeah, there's side convos. And in doing so, like when you hunt a normal story, you hunt one story and you come across another.
Yep.
And it was told to me that the photo shoot of Mitch should have taken Link between 3 to 5 minutes, right? Like go down, watch him, fake picture of the microphone, pretending to, do something, and then that's it. It went for 30.
That's a bit of mayo. It probably went for 12 to 15 minutes.
It went for 30.
It did not go for 30.
That is an eyewitness account. And when
Rabs and Ben Cameron are
I followed up to say, why did it go for 30? Again, the information that was relayed to me was that, quote unquote, from an unnamed source, Mitch was enjoying it.
What sort of rot do they talk in the Age office?
It disappoints me to a certain degree that you've gone down this sort of path. And on top of that, if you're going to promote yourself, can you get tradies involved? Like, here I am on Footy Classified last night taking punch after punch after punch from Lloydie about the stupid headwear I wear. All along, I'm sitting there going, it's good promotion for tradies. It's good promotion for tradies. But no, all about 7. And it disappoints me. I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed.
How am I meant to shoehorn tradies into a Thursday night footy production?
Find a way.
So we get the text from Emma Francis, the head of publicity at 7.
Great person, Emma.
She's a gun.
Used to work at the AFL.
Saying, Stephen and the age team are coming on Thursday night. Everyone put your smiles on and be happy.
I'm not sure that's information you should have publicly relayed.
No.
Okay, so now we know that was a fake picture of the Thursday night team. I would like Stephen to do a follow-up. What really happens behind the scenes of Thursday night?
And they did send a camera down to me on the boundary, but there was nothing happening. As you know, on the boundary, there goes 10 minutes where nothing happens. Yeah. So they needed to fabricate a bit of drama. The minute they left, Nick Watson came off.
Fabricated drama.
Nick Watson came off with his hammy scenario. They should have hung around. Maybe they should have waited for half an hour. Before we get into some proper trade chat, my phone, it's good to know that people are listening when your phone blows up, because Link sort of stepped into the movie sphere last week with Point Break and got a few things wrong. So, Link, do you want to explain what happened?
There was quite a bit of feedback on the filming of the final scene.
It was actually in Oregon, not Bells Beach.
In my defence, how was I supposed to know what Bells Beach looked like in 1991?
No, that's fine. But it was more that you were so adamant.
Yeah, I was
that it
pretty
was,
confident.
and I'm thinking, geez, in 1991 they came all the way to Bells to film a 6-minute scene, and then just like because I got sucked in, I went back and watched it, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, that's not Bells. And the fake Aussie accents of the cops, did you pick up on that?
Oh,
Good eye, mate.
So my housemate is an actor, and I was watching the movie.
What's your housemate's name?
Harry Gilchrist.
Welcome to you, Harry.
And he is explaining to me all this stuff about this movie, why it's so good. And he goes, when the bank robber scene happens, he goes, oh, you know the mask, that inspired Heath Ledger's Joker movie. And I went, oh,
Harry,
cool.
Harry.
Sam's going to love this tomorrow.
Harry. I looked into that again. Another 18 minutes of my life I won't get back.
So without throwing Harry under the bus, that's where that information came from.
We need to send a link down to the Rip Curl Pro over the next couple of weeks just to do a bit of research.
Did you watch it?
No.
Okay, so there's your homework.
Okay.
One movie for next week.
All right.
Point Break. And it's surfing. So it's sort of sport.
I'm a surfing expert. Did you see my chat with Ethan Ewing last week?
No.
Number 6 in the world.
Hey, excuse me. You're talking to the overnight host.
That's right.
Of the surfing at the Olympics on 9Gem from 3 a.m. till 7 a.m. All right? Expert.
Shouldn't have questioned you. Big week for a few of our favourites. Harley Reid asserting himself.
Unbelievable. Amazing.
Cosy Pickett. He's got his fair share of mentions on this show over the last couple of years. Have the Demons got him at a good rate at 1.4, 1.5 a year?
No.
His last quarter on the weekend.
Yeah.
My word.
His second half was amazing, helped by the fact that he was playing on no one.
Yeah, I love the vision from Nick Rewalt last night, pointing out that at one of the more crucial centre bounces of the game, they had Jagger Smith go to him, which, nothing against Jagger, but surely there's someone of some experience at Carlton that could go and sidle up to Cosy Pickett in a crucial moment.
Fascinating footy team, the Carlton Footy Club. Fascinating. Are you going to put anyone on the whiteboard?
I didn't plan on it today. I've got a Mitch's Men edition.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had Darcy Wilmot on the Sunday Footy Feast.
Oh, we're going straight to it.
On Sunday.
What's the Sunday Footy Feast?
It's the high rating show on midday on 7.
Would you like, I'll give you one opportunity to rephrase that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go to the ratings book.
Go for it. It's a national show. Jason Richardson, Campbell Brown, Kate McCarthy. Anyway, we had Darcy on, and it was the same day the grand final time slot was announced. So we used a grab from Darcy on the news about the grand final time slot because he's played in the last 3, won the last 2. And I spoke to one of the news producers and they said, who's that? And he said he could walk down Punt Road and not be seen or known by anyone.
Yep,
I said, that's the definition of Mitch's Men.
Yep.
He's a dual premiership player, hardly missed. I don't think he's missed at all since he debuted in that final.
Yep.
He is one of the more underrated players in the comp. I know we say that a lot about a lot of guys.
No, he really is.
But we talk about Harris Andrews, McCluggage, Ashcrofts. I think this guy needs a few more plaudits, so he's getting a run in Mitch's Men in 2026.
Wow.
How's it missed?
Hasn't missed.
Would you recognise him, Link, if he walked down Swan Street?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, Links, we're all footy nuffies.
I don't think I would.
Really?
No.
With his big beard that he had last year.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the ground a lot when I walk down the street. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. Do you know who I did run into on the weekend?
Could be anyone.
Well, you're Mitch's number one man.
Brody Euland.
No, bigger than that.
Oh, you did. Max Holmes.
So
He was one of the OG Mitch's men.
I'm sitting at a pub on Clarendon Street, South Melbourne, and I look outside and there's this guy in a hat, and I literally said to my mate Allan, "That looks a lot like Max Holmes." And he's like, "Oh yeah, it does a little bit." And it was like, it couldn't be though. Like, why would he be at a pub in South Melbourne on Saturday? And then about 20 minutes later, this like gigantic man sat next to him, and I was like, "Holy shit, who is that?" And I was like, "I reckon that's Shannon Neal." And then I was like, "So that must be Max Holmes." Anyway, so it crossed my mind that I wanted to go up to him, and because he dressed as you at the Mad Monday or Wacky Wednesday. What do they do?
Yeah, Mad Monday. They've had a few. He's had a few journos. Last year, a little bit more controversial than the year before.
What was last year?
Caro.
Ah, yes. So I was gonna go up to him, but I also have not a rule, but like I don't like going up to players when they're out socially. Like that, he was with a group of mates. The last thing he wants to do is talk to me, right?
Yeah.
And then I went with my mates to the Aths, to the Maury Plant meet that Bruce was calling.
Yeah.
Amazing event, by the way, to see Gout. And there he was again. They sort of like, we follow, our groups of friends followed each other. And then it crossed my mind, Lick. I was like, he also just might look at me and be like, "You don't think I'm an A-grader, fuck you." And so I actually got a little bit nervous and was like, I'm just not going to say anything. And so I didn't. And that's my story.
You text me saying, "I'm with Max Holmes."
Yeah. Upon reflection, with Max Holmes was inaccurate. But I was in the very near vicinity. I wonder how that conversation would have gone. I've actually never met him. Is he nice?
He's great. And I think he's
Is he an A-grade human?
he's one of the guys that speak their mind in the modern game.
Oh, that's probably good I didn't go to. Quick side note. Shannon Neal is so big.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how anyone gets around him, ever. That's all.
He is not yet 24.
Jeez.
Not yet played 50 games.
How many goals he kicked?
He's kicked 74 from 48 games.
It's not bad.
I think it stacks up against a lot of young key forwards.
I think it's similar to, like, even better than maybe Hawkins in his first 50 games.
Hawkins took a while to get going.
Yeah.
So do we hold high hopes for Shannon Neal, or is it too early?
I think in time he's a bit early.
But like, do we think he's going to be like an absolute star, or is the jury still out?
As in, will he be an A-grade conversation in years to come? Is that a good yardstick?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Let's see over the next dozen games.
Or you think this year we'll find out?
Well, we'll find out if he's an A-grade conversation guy in years to come.
Okay.
He's got the keys to that forward line now.
Yeah.
Because Jez is sort of a bit part forward.
Yeah, true. Okay, well, do you want to get into the midfielders now? The 12?
Yep.
So you've done it. You've done a list.
Yep.
And Link's done a list. Why'd you do a list?
For fun.
It is fun. That's true. I didn't find this fun at all. I found it very stressful.
So the rules, last 25 years,
Yeah,
they've got to have debuted this century.
Yeah, debuted from 2000 onwards.
So it rules out Buckley, Voss, Simon Black, Ben Cousins, Hurd, West, Rashudo, Robert Harvey.
Thank God. I basically wanted just to like reverse engineer it so that I could get all the guys that were too stressful just out. Yeah, post 2000. So I think Black was the closest of those guys. Would have
Debuted
debuted
in
in 98.
Yeah.
When did Cousins debut?
96.
96. Okay, of course Link would know.
Link's a walking footy encyclopedia.
All right, so
Except don't go to movies.
yeah, or where they were filmed. Okay, so I want to be very clear about this. I'm not doing an order. Don't ask me to.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to. I'm not doing it.
So when Cinch Footy puts this up on Instagram, there's no order.
So in no particular order. Gary Ablett Jr., Chris Judd, Dustin Martin,
Sounds like an order.
Nat Fife. It does sound like an order. Patrick Dangerfield, Scott Pendlebury, Joel Selwood, Marcus Bontempelli, Lockie Neal, Sam Mitchell, Patrick Cripps, Jimmy Bartell.
Ooh, we've got one different.
Yeah, yeah. Was it Bartell? Was he the difference?
No, he's in.
Or was it Mitchell?
He's in.
Oh, Cripps.
Yep.
Okay, who's in for Cripps?
Dane Swan.
Yeah. So Swan was my 13th that I just...
Yep.
It's really hard, right? Because you could do it in so many different ways. You could do it over their career. You could do it at their very prime. Because I think Dane Swan's best football is better than Cripps' best. Maybe even better than Pendlebury's best.
Yep.
To be honest. But I'm looking at the 12 as over the course of their career. And I didn't even look at what I usually do for A graders, like Brownlow votes, All Australians, all that sort of stuff. I literally just did
So what did you spend your 3.5 hours on?
mainly stressing. And like I deleted and then put them back in and then basically went for a walk and then like and then also like leaving out Hodge, I was like, I can't get another abusive text from him at 11:45. I can't do it to myself.
I just didn't consider him a midfielder. The other one was Goods. I didn't consider a midfielder. If he was,
did he debut in 99?
Goods would have debuted pre-2000.
I didn't even check that.
Otherwise, Goods is in for me.
Yeah, but he's in.
Yeah, I think he's a mid.
But he's a mid.
Yeah, because like you could argue that Bartell wasn't a pure mid.
Yeah, Bartel more so than Goods, but
Like
yeah,
Bartell spent a lot of time at half forward, and then a little bit of time at half back, I guess.
yep. I went with brilliance, durability, and prioritise winning. So that's why it was sort of Bartel or Cripps for that 13th spot. There was a few other 13ths. Shout out to Trent Cotchin. Nick Dacos is not far away for me.
So Dacos has played 98 games. My kind of thought on that was if his career, God forbid, if his career stopped now, would he be in? Probably not.
The other one,
But he's going to be, my opinion is he will be in the top 3 of that list by the time his career finishes.
yeah. And then the fact that Bartel played 70 more games than what Cripps has now.
Is it that many?
Well,
What's
Cripps is
Bartel 306?
Yeah, and Cripps is 233.
Oh, I thought Cripps was 250 already. There you go.
And then Sam Mitchell, durability and tenure. And then Swan played 258. The other one that I think we probably gloss over a bit is Clayton Oliver.
Did you do an order?
No, sort of.
Link, give us your 12. How many different were you? To me and Mitch.
I think it was relatively. I think I only had one different.
Which was?
I've got Nick Dacos at 12.
Okay. So you left out Cripps and Swan.
I've got Swan. I left out Cripps.
So who else did you leave out? Bartel.
Yeah, Bartel out.
Okay. In fairness, Link wouldn't have seen a lot of Bartel because he's 12. How old are you, Link?
24.
When was your date of birth?
01.
Oh, wow. Oh my. So we're talking about people that literally debuted before he was born.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Do you know who I've got at 1?
You've done an order.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
got 5, doesn't he?
Don't tell me you got 5.
I've got 5 at 1.
Who you got at 1?
Ablett. Judd, not far. Martin, not far.
So if you're picking a team tomorrow to play one game, you're picking Ablett first.
Probably. You?
Not doing an order. Martin.
So
I think Dusty, I think.
the genesis of this conversation was around Zach Merritt.
Oh, yeah. I tried so hard. I think he's like 16.
Yeah, probably got him 16, 18.
Do you actually have Trent Cotchin ahead of him?
Probably, yeah. If I prioritise winning,
Link?
It's not a Brownlow.
Sort of. I don't want to go back into that hole.
going there.
I'm not going. Yeah, no, don't.
and I think, yeah, Clayton Oliver and Tom
No,
Mitchell.
he did. And Sam Mitchell won it. I don't want to be disrespectful to Brownlow winners. Trent Cotchin was a great player and an amazing leader of the Richmond Footy Club. So I know I have a lot of fun on this. But I don't like doing these lists. Very
Did
stressful.
we mention that we bumped into Zach Merritt while we were filming our Lambo skit?
No. Should we? Let's do it.
Oh, we just did.
So I picked you up and you were like, I just saw Zach Merritt. And I literally went, get in the car. And so we put the Urus into sport mode and we flew down whatever street that is, driving carefully, obviously. And then Zach was about to cross a side street and I literally parked the car across the side street. So I blocked him, essentially. and put the windows down. And he was like, what? And he shook my hand. And then, I don't know, have you guys got some tension with you?
Did you sense that?
Yep. I sense Michael Voss style tension. We need to unpack that, by the way. He spoke over you 3 times in the press conference.
Not for the first time.
I know. What's happened there?
There's just certain journos, I think, that some coaches don't throw themselves in with and shower them with love, and I don't think I'm one.
I agree with that. Anyway, Zach was a little bit confused. He was with his dog and his son, daughter? Not sure.
Child.
Yeah. We had a good chat.
Yep.
And then he mentioned the A-graders list.
Yep.
I think it was somewhere along the lines of, not sure if I like you, Sam, but you did put me in the A-graders list, so I'm happy with that.
Pretty much along those lines. And then we drove off and Ruby was with us.
Yep.
And I said, we probably should have filmed that he said about Sam's A-grade list. Anyway.
Where were we? The 12.
The 12, yeah.
I think that the 10 is pretty solid. I don't think we're missing anyone out of that. Like the last 2 spots, I think will be a good debate. But Ablett, Judd, Martin, Fife, Dangerfield, Pendlebury, Selwood, Bontempelli, Neil, Mitchell. I think that, without speaking on behalf of our Tradies audience, I would think that 9 out of 10 Tradies listeners have those 10 in the 12.
For what it's worth, I had Swan ahead of Mitchell.
Okay. All right, sure. So you had Swan in your 10.
Yep.
Okay, even though we're not doing
I've
one.
got Swan at 7.
All right, just give me your 1 to 12 link.
Okay, 12 Nick Dacos, 11 Sam Mitchell, 10 Lockie Neal, 9 Joel Selwood, 8 Pendlebury, 7 Swan, 6 Dangerfield, 5 Bontempelli, 4 Martin, 3 Judd, 2 Ablett, 1 Fife.
5 at 1's outrageous. There's the first thing. I have Mitchell a lot higher if I did an order. I think Sam Mitchell's sneaky underrated.
Yep. Where do you want to start in terms of our proper trade chat? Because we just spoke a lot of shit.
Basically just half an hour of nothing.
Yeah.
Can I talk briefly about DeConing?
Yeah.
So I just think it's worth revisiting the fact that Max Gawn at Captain's Day last year said that he thought Tom DeConing could be the best player in the competition. That's a pretty big rap for a bloke who at some stage would have been considered the best player in the competition. On form, is that reasonable?
Yep.
And he's basically doubled his pay packet from, 850,000 at Carlton to 1.7 million. I don't think that's ever happened in footy before. Would that also be reasonable?
One that springs to mind was Tim Kelly, but it was a bit of different circumstances because he was on his initial draft contract at Geelong and then got well paid at the Eagles. But that's just by the by.
So he didn't have a major impact against Darcy Fort on the weekend. Again, is that reasonable?
I did the sums here with Draper and Fort. They're probably just tipping over $1 million combined.
Okay.
And the Saints duo.
What's Draper on?
Oh, Draper'd be 7s.
Really? That low?
Well, he was an end of first round compo.
Yeah, he got offered
Maybe
shitloads
pushing-
by Adelaide, though.
Maybe pushing 8s. He got tenure at the Lions more so than massive wage.
Okay. All right, yep. And then
And
Darcy
then
Fort's
Fort
on
will
that
be
much.
less than AFL average.
Even though he's been a sneaky, he's been very handy for Brisbane.
Oh, shit,
At
yeah.
a time where they'd needed him.
He was one of the OG second guys. So before this new ruck rule came in, he was always behind Oscar McInerney. And for a long time, he was the second best ruck at a club.
But then he had to play number 1 with Danaher chipping in the grand final
Oh, no.
when McInerney went down, right?
Yeah, but Brisbane went and got him as backup to McInerney.
Yeah.
He was if you want to say, the 19th best ruckman in the comp for a long time. He was
Yeah.
the best second guy.
Yes.
And now he's proven himself. So, bit over $1 million for Fort and Draper combined. Saints pair, Marshall and DeConing, more than 2.5.
So I think it's a bit harsh to judge Tom this early on the deal.
Oh, on the deal, yeah, but he is 26, turning 27 this
Yeah,
year.
no, I agree. So he's not 18 or he's not 20. But I'm just saying sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get going at a new club.
Dan Houston, Lockie Schultz.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's wait. But
When do we wait until?
midway point of the year, I think it's a fair sample size. Give me till round 11, round 12. It is, and I was this came into my head mainly because of Link and the misstep he made about Point Break and linking it to Batman. But it is giving Dark Knight Heath Ledger vibes of, and I know Mitch probably won't remember this scene. Remember the scene where he's just standing in front of all the cash and it's burning? Like you could make the case that that's St Kilda right now. They're burning a lot of cash, right? Again, I come back to what I've said on this pod before. I'd rather be St Kilda having a crack than St Kilda not. But it's just put a massive target on their back. Funnily enough, do you know who Heath Ledger supported?
Saints.
No.
Eagles.
Link.
Link.
I knew Link would know because he's a Perth boy.
Just on the Saints, so when they traded Jack Steele out last year, I wasn't up in arms about it because his output over the last 12 to 18 months wasn't huge at the Saints, and I think the midfield had gone past him in many ways. But what they did do in moving Jack Steele on is it probably prioritised Jack Macrae a bit more in that engine room because I don't think Macrae and Steele together was working all that well in the modern game. So Steele goes to the Demons. The Saints are still paying part of that wage. He has 16 tackles on the weekend and played a pretty pivotal role in the Demons coming from behind to knock off the Blues.
Got coaches' votes, I think.
Yep. He's a year younger than Jack Macrae. Now, Steele's body, his knees have been a concern, but Macrae is starting to pick up a few injuries as well. Macrae had a pretty healthy deal at the Bulldogs, which he then left and with 3 years remaining moved for the Saints on upwards of 650, 700-ish. I don't claim to know the exact figure, but he was an All-Australian when he signed his big deal at the Bulldogs. He then took the last 3 years of that to the Saints, and I'm told emphatically that the Dogs aren't paying any money of Jack Macrae. He finished 10th in the BNF last year out of 21 games of a possible 23. Yet to set the world on fire, injured at the moment. But I think it's just an interesting point that he's a year older than Steele. Steele's having immediate impact at the Demons under a new coach with a bit more emphasis without Oliver, Petrarca and Viney injured at the moment. He's playing a good role there. And I think if you do the finances, what the Saints are paying Macrae and what they're chipping in for Steele this year far outweighs what the Demons are paying for Jack Steele.
Hard to argue with that. I mean, Steele and Macrae are slightly different players.
A little bit.
Macrae's got a little bit more outside upside, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Probably a little bit better ball user. But yeah,
just in this world where we're talking about the Saints and prioritising the money and what they did last year, I think it's a fair irony of what's going on.
And Ross has spent a little bit of time talking about Nazaya and maybe getting a little bit more physical support in the engine room. And it was kind of, like 24 hours later, there's Steele having 16 tackles.
Now, Macrae's injured, so he's not being able to prove it.
Yeah, that's right.
I know Kane's been hot on Macrae this year. The other factor too is Steele was captain. So there is the cultural aspect of this in uprooting the playing group. I don't think it was diabolically received at the Saints, but still he was captain for a long time in some tough periods for the Saints.
Yeah, and how did it affect that?
Yeah.
Their environment.
Yeah. And it's an intangible, but...
And then the other thing is the one that you've been on for months and months and months is Marshall.
Yeah.
And the impact that the recruiting's had on him. I mean, I think he's 3 games of career lows for numbers.
Yeah.
As a ruckman or a forward.
It's not really working at the moment, is it?
So will he ask again at the end of the year to go to the Cats? Or to go somewhere?
I'd be surprised if not.
Because he's contracted to the end of 27.
Yep. So but is the appeal to another club as strong as it was at the end of last year? Because he's another year older.
Someone near the top will give him a run.
And he won't have been banged up this year because he won't have had 95% of the ruck. So his body will be, you could argue, fresher heading into 27.
Couple of questions from a trade perspective for the Thursday night game. The Cats had a really strong win against the Crows. Baz Lenker's 39. Good 39 or worried about ball use?
I think it was pretty pivotal in the game.
Yep, same. And Adelaide's second best midfielder is...
Yeah, I still think it's Rankin.
It can't be Rankin. It can't be. You can't have 7 disposals. He's not a mid.
Not from Thursday night. But I think he's a mid this year.
I'm not sure about Rankin.
I thought you were implying Josh Rochelle was their second best mid when you sent that text.
I was not.
Okay.
Who's good on
He played
Thursday
pretty
night?
well.
He was okay.
I'm with you on this Crows whole thing. By the way, I'm not arguing it. They did miss a trick into last year. They had a crack at Riley Sanders. They met with Petrarca. They did miss a trick.
What are they paying Rankin?
It'd be so he signed an initial 3-year deal. He's since signed for 2 more. It'd be in the $1 million ballpark again without knowing or doing the work. But he wouldn't be getting screwed over by the Crows.
How many times are you going to kick 3 goals or more last year?
3?
Twice. One was against Melbourne.
Yep.
So it doesn't really count. His numbers on paper for his career are fine. He averages 15 disposals.
I think he's more than just a numbers guy though. I think
he's kicked 155 goals from 107 games. His numbers are fine. But he's not a pure mid. He's an impact player, and he went missing in a big game on Thursday.
When his team needed him without Dawson.
Did you see Nick Rewald on their agenda setters last night? Said someone from AFL.com had him in their best. I laughed because, and you would have been here before, like how many games have you and I covered for, whether it's for websites or newspapers or whatever?
The last quarter, you're not seeing much of the game.
And it's always, and I'm happy to speak from my perspective here, you get to it, you've written 1,000 words, you've analysed 3 different moments, you've done both coaches' press conferences, and then your editor, your subby rings you at 11:50 and be like, hey, can I just get your best? Like often I'm like walking into the train and I'm like, oh yeah, Adelaide.
Rankin's a good player.
Yeah, exactly. So it happens.
It's tough.
I mean, but it was a fair point from Nick. Like, make sure you actually go back and have a look. But having said that, it can happen.
As a reader, how much of the match report is actually consumed and how much of the best is consumed? I'd argue that 60% of eyeballs go straight to the best.
Mm. Can I just ask a last one on Rankin? I'm a little bit obsessed. Give me a player in the last 30 years that Adelaide want him to be like. Like, do they want him to be Cyril Rioli? I'm not saying they're the same sort of player, but is he going to be majorly a forward that spends a little bit of time as an impact mid, or is he going to be a pure, skinnier version of Jordan De Goey that just plays that hybrid Dustin Martin role? Like, what is he?
From what I understand, I think the Crows' ideal world would be 60 mid, 40 forward.
Link?
Trying to think of the player.
I can't think of a player.
I can't think of a player either. And I spent a lot of Thursday night trying to get to sleep thinking about this, which is rare for me because I'm usually thinking about movies.
Shea Bolton Richmond, but he was probably more forward.
Oh, Bolton's not bad.
Shea Bolton Freo.
Well, yeah, he's going well.
Career high touches on the weekend. Sorry.
Welcome to Fremantle Radio.
Well, just on that, I know I mentioned this on the pod last week.
Mason Cox, when's he playing?
Well, no, but on that, I almost fell off the couch last night.
I know where you're going.
Sam is talking about waffle numbers, days rest for games. I thought I was living in my own brain with Micro Mitch for a moment. Sam has gone so micro. How much more can you do to try and get a guy a game?
I'm showing you. I'm locked out of a West Australian article.
Explain it, because you just showed me an article.
I'm locked out of a West Australian article, which headline is Fremantle Dockers ruckman Mason Cox makes early exit from waffle practice game with Peel Thunder in planned move. And I'm just sitting there, like lying in bed, being like, he's going to play. Yes, they're going to pick him. Yes.
But Sean Darcy's, again, he was rucking against McKelty or Fowl.
He was rucking against no one.
Yeah.
No disrespect to McKelty.
But it's a good confidence booster for Sean.
Okay.
Anyone else you want to play into form while we're just thinking? I'm thinking about it.
So I tried to get a miss into form. I think he kicked the first goal of the game, didn't he?
He just played pretty well.
Kicked 2-3.
Yeah, 2-3 is not great.
He's had 5 shots on goal, probably won them all. In there.
Oh, so if you kick 0-5, it's on.
He's getting his hands on the footy.
Yeah. So I think, and again, welcome to Fremantle Radio for the next 2 minutes. I think the next 2 games are Adelaide and Collingwood. Is that right?
Yep.
So
Jeez, it would be good if his first game for the Dockers was against the Pies and Gather Round.
That would be very good.
Based on Darcy's form, based on the fact that he's exited a Peel Thunder practice match early.
I still can't believe it.
Yeah,
I've
rattled
Sam
myself.
doesn't know Darcy Wilmot to look at, but he's talking about waffle Peel numbers.
Yep. based on all of that, do we think that Mason's going to play in the next 2 weeks? Do you think they're setting him up for Darcy to be managed, and they're worried about one of those two?
Is there a 5 or 6 day break in that window? If so, yes.
I don't know. Now you're getting real technical.
Well, Sean in the past.
Well, they play on Saturday, and then
Thursday night, Collingwood. No, Friday night, Collingwood.
So
Sorry.
there's a 6 day break and travel in there. Yeah, there's a chance that Cox could play one of those too.
So what you're telling me is Mason Cox could make his Fremantle debut at Gather Round against Collingwood. Is that what you're telling me?
That'd be theatre.
Unbelievable. And I'll be there.
Wow. We'll both be there.
What?
Actually, no, I'll be.
We'll all
back
be
home.
there.
Will you be there, Lee?
I'm only on the Thursday.
Maybe.
I'm buying a Fremantle jumper and beanie and going if he plays. We talked about Christmas earlier in the pod. That would be Christmas. Anyway, what did you want to talk about?
The reason I brought that up was Richmond's lack of ruckman. They've been exposed without Nank and Samson Ryan. They'll be hard in the trade period again for ruckman this year. Just want to talk about Melbourne's Waverley situation. So Melbourne have been nomads for a while. They haven't had a permanent home. They've been split across Amy, the MCG, where their administration is, and they spend a day or two a week at Casey. A lot going on and trying to find a new home. They've identified Caulfield, where they want to move, but there's a few complications with that because right now they want to build a tunnel under Caulfield, which would stop the races for at least 6 months, up to 12 months, some are telling me. And Moonee Valley is out of action for at least the next 18 months. So to cease racing at Caulfield and to cease, while Moonee Valley has also been ceased, would be a big ask in Victorian racing. The CEO of the Demons right now, Paul Guerra, is on the Racing Victoria board. There's a lot of machinations involved in all these. Long story short, I think Caulfield is still a long way from being ticked off. And the flow on from that is the Demons don't want to commit to Waverley for a short-term stay until Caulfield is approved. And Caulfield is a long way away. So what's happened now is the AFL, who are the landlords of Waverley, are engaged in negotiations with Richmond over the potential of Waverley because Richmond need a home base for 9 to 10 months at the end of this year because Punt Road Oval is being reconfigured to MCG size.
I have a huge headache.
Did that make a little bit of sense?
Who's going to Waverley?
We don't know yet.
Okay. So where are Melbourne going? Nowhere.
Well, there was a lot of suggestion, and people at Melbourne have felt that Waverley was on the cards, but my understanding is those negotiations between Waverley and the Demons have stalled.
Right.
The reason I bring it up for this trade sense is Simon Goodwin spoke about this last year about driving to Casey and the impact of not having a permanent base. In my time of covering footy, I can't remember a bigger disparity in the glamour clubs or the attractive clubs in Melbourne to go to right now and the not so attractive clubs. So if you're a player deciding Melbourne or another club, Melbourne are a hard sell right now because they don't have a permanent base and they don't, although they had 67,000 on the weekend and they're playing some exciting footy and they've got good players like Cozzy, it's more than just that. Like players want certainty with where they're going to train and their facilities and all that sort of thing. So I just had a look at it. You can add Richmond to that list because with Punt Road and, you know, everything going on there, they're not contending for the next 2 years. So going to Richmond right now is also a hard sell. North Melbourne, unless it's pure cash, is a hard sell. Essendon, we spoke about that last week, hard sell. Carlton is not overly enticing right now, I think, until Cody Walker, Jagger Smith and Harry Dean build. And then St Kilda, like, have they used all their money? So right now, Hawthorn, Geelong, Collingwood, Western Bulldogs, I think are a long way ahead of the other clubs in Victoria in terms of attractiveness to a prospective free agent.
Hawthorn, Geelong, Collingwood, Western Bulldogs.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. Speaking of Collingwood, and on this, can we just listen to Scott Penderbury talking about rebuilding versus not?
I don't think there's great evidence that going backwards, the rebuild path gets you to where you want to go really quickly. I think if we have a look at the sides that have done it, they'd probably still argue they're in the rebuilding phase, 7, 8 years later. So I think one of the benefits of being Collingwood in my time being here is that you always attract free agents, you always attract really good players. So sometimes the draft you don't need because you're going to, someone's got a lob in your lap that you don't really expect that you get. Their managers or whatever want to come and play at Collingwood.
It's rare you hear a player, Mitch, being so open about.
Especially 40 minutes before a game.
Yeah, it was great access, and the Pies do that very well, and he's obviously one of the best at it. But so I'll give you my thoughts quickly before you dive into it. But it's so interesting hearing a player being so open about not going to the draft and how, well, you know, we're Collingwood, we're always going to attract big players, which is kind of like, it's sort of like the Manchester United, Real Madrid kind of thought process of, even if we're a bit shit for a while, the name and the brand is so big that we'll always get players. The counter argument to that is what's happened to Essendon. Because when you and I were growing, not speaking on behalf of you, but when you and I were growing up,
Oh, yeah.
they were, for me, they were the biggest and the most powerful club in the land. Like, when they had Lloyd and Hurd and these guys, and particularly like 2000 on that winning streak, like you could, if someone had said to me as a 9-year-old in 2000, there'll be a car crash and a laughing stock in 25 years, I would have been like, no chance, because they're Essendon. They'll always be big. But it's happened to them, which is kind of fascinating. Now, I'm not saying it could happen to Collingwood, but what I'm saying is it's a risk for everyone. If you make poor enough decisions for long enough, you don't know how far you can fall, right?
So what you're saying is the risk of stripping back and getting it wrong for 5-10 years is far more of a concern than doing what Collingwood is in staying in contention and just...
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Scott, with a caveat of, yes, Collingwood will always attract good players, but as long as your decisions are sound and you're remaining up the top. Now, I know Essendon's circumstances, not to open up old wounds, but it's very, very unique given what happened with the drug scandal 10 years ago. But, you know, listening to Brad Scott justifying the medium term and the long term after the loss to North on the weekend.
Can we just play that, Grab?
Let's do it.
We'll be fine. You know, we've got a strategy. It's really clear. We know what we're doing. Medium to long term is something that we're really excited about. And the decisions we made to look to the medium to long term, we accepted that there was short-term vulnerability and there might be some short-term pain, but we're willing to endure that. We'll be fine. You know, we've got a strategy. It's really clear. We know what we're doing. Medium to long term is something that we're really excited about. And the decisions we made to look to the medium to long term, we accepted that there was short-term vulnerability and there might be some short-term pain, but we're willing to endure that.
I'm fascinated by those Brad Scott comments. They've been angling at those, but I haven't heard it as explicit as that. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's been privately the message that the club has been saying, but I haven't heard it as directly and specific as that.
Yeah. So the Essendon, and I've spoken about this before, but the Essendon toing and froing with their strategy over the last 8 to 10 years has been all over the shop, really.
Yeah.
So you go 2017, they make the finals. We're all excited what the future looks like. They go and get Adam Saad, Devon Smith and Jake Stringer. They don't take a pick in the draft until 49 that year. Then you fast forward a few years. Well, they got belted in 2017 in that final, by the way, by the Swans. 2020, Danaher and Saad make the decision for them. Both leave the footy club. And then they go to the draft for Perkins.
That's when they had the 3 inside 10.
Cox, Reid.
Yep.
Then
Tough.
they do their thing then. Then they go and get Mackay and Gresham. They didn't cost them picks, but it was still salary cap room. Guys in that 26, 27 age bracket. My question is, what are they? Were they contending? Were they going to the draft? It felt a bit all over the shop there for that 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, the free agents, to your point, didn't cost them anything, and you got to pay someone. You got to pay 95 of the cap.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like I don't have as much. I don't get as frustrated about the free agency selections as I do just continuously picking the wrong blokes.
Yeah.
In the draft.
And then I want to know what Mason Redmond, who just signed a 5-year deal, not just, but he signed.
Yeah.
Langford, Parrish, Mackay, all 28 and older. Even Jordan Ridley's 27. What do they think when they watch that Brad Scott press conference? Do they think they're part of the medium to long-term narrative? Are they, are those guys in their next finals win? I don't know. And I've been big on the fact that keeping Merritt last year wasn't disastrous. I know we have different views on that.
Yeah, totally disagree.
But when I hear Brad Scott say it as explicitly as that on the weekend, maybe those 3 first-rounders, caveat, they're not pure first-rounders, but maybe that was the play.
Yeah, well, so that's the bit I find a little bit incongruous.
And I'm starting to align more with you after hearing those Brad comments.
Yeah, so I'm listening to Brad and I'm like, yep, no, I see it, yep, I agree, yep, I agree, that's what you need to do, yep, why'd you keep Merritt? That's the bit that I don't understand. So I'm not going to speak on behalf of Brad because I honestly don't know the answer. But did he have the same view as Andrew Welsh? I don't know. It was a board decision to keep him. Was it the coach's decision? Was everyone aligned? I don't know. I'm asking questions I don't know the answer to. But he sat there and went, this is what we are. We know exactly what we are. We have sacrificed the short term in order to build something strong. And I'm like, okay, well, at least I know what you are. I don't know why you kept Merritt.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Yep. And again, I want to say that they were 3 first-rounders. Last year's draft, no one wanted a part of. Other clubs were jumping out where they could. And that 27 draft is going to be heavily compromised by Tassie. But they were 3 first-rounders ultimately. The other thing is Brad said we could have gone and got players. Well, they haven't gone and done that.
Who?
But Braden Fiorini, they did bring on a 4-year deal. He's 29 this year. Would that spot have been better served with a youngster and giving games to?
Well, that's the whole balance of, you can't just play 22 kids.
Yeah.
How's your man Nate going?
He's not firing just yet.
I think he's trying hard. I think he's playing pretty well. Pretty well.
Tries his heart out every week.
Yeah. Not sure he's Charlie Curnow, like you said, but he's a pretty good player.
Let's reassess that in 12 months.
Okay. Hey, on the whole topic of rebuilding, at Port, it's like the word that you can't use.
Koshy's made that point himself for many years. He's doubled down over
Have
the
you
last
noticed
week.
that? And then even the coach on the weekend, we can't use the R word. It did give me real Harry Potter.
He went with, what did he say? It was a transition.
Yeah, it gave me real Harry Potter vibes.
We do not speak his name.
Are you a Harry Potter man?
I've seen them, but I can't really tell you what's going on. And my favourite one was the first.
Did you read the books?
We had this exact discussion 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Did we?
I reckon I read the
3
first
weeks
one or
ago?
two.
Yeah, he said he just.
Got
I remember
busy.
the chat. Yeah, he said he got busy and just didn't get through them.
I forget things. I reckon I'm getting old. It's like what Ross Lyon talked about this like a decade ago. He's like, we don't rebuild, we
re-stump,
we
rewire.
retile, rewire, yeah. And
That's to Pendle's point, right? What we just heard.
yeah, so full circle, that's what I wanted to come back to this. Do you think Port Adelaide have enough cachet and have enough talent at the top end to rebuild, or to Joshua Carr's word, transition, while competing?
No, I think they're a bottom 3 or 4 team this year.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
I think their best 5 or 6 players are as good as most finals teams. But the depth falls away at the power.
And again, I know I'm in the minority. I would have traded Butters the last trade period because I just think you're kicking the can down the road. And now the whole storyline of Josh Carr's first year is what happens with Zach Butters.
Just the caveat to that is last year's draft wasn't super strong.
Yeah, but you could have got futures involved.
Yeah. Yep.
So
But they could argue we'll get that this year.
yeah, maybe, but
And we would have been throwing Josh to the Wolves even further had we have traded him last year.
no.
Like if they're not a bottom 4 team now, they definitely would have been without Butters this year.
Yeah, but I think he gets it, there's just no pressure on him if they trade Butters.
Yeah.
I think he
It's not
gets
a lot of pressure on him now.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah, but is that pressure?
They were pretty good under Ken.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little bit air raidy, but the whole like desperately trying to move on Ken for a guy that they didn't know was going to be any good was wild to me. Wild.
Who was already there.
Yeah, wild. But that's just me.
They do have Cochrane coming in.
Yep.
The kids, Zemma's pilot,
Yep.
who in 18 months, they're talking already is a star. Salopek's son.
you love the futures.
Well, they were talking about Nick Dacos when he was 16. That worked out all right.
Yeah, like one out of how
Harley
many?
Reid.
Oh, yep. Looks good.
Just on Port. So this is a little bit niche, so just bear with me, a bit micro.
Bit micro. Okay.
So Cal Toomey reported a couple of months ago that the AFL is looking at introducing compo from pick 10 onwards.
yes.
So no more Ben Mackay, Oscar Allen scenarios.
Yep. So they don't want to allow it for clubs to use as leverage.
Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, North Melbourne never really offered a deal to Ben Mackay. They knew they were getting a pick 2 or 3. Off he goes. Mackay gets paid by the Bombers. Bombers don't give up a pick. North get a top 3 pick.
Everybody wins.
Everyone's happy. Now, there was a consideration at the AFL that no longer happens. if this Ben Mackay scenario happened again, the Roos would enter the draft at pick 10 or 11 with that pick. Where this has hit a bit of a snag is the CBA doesn't allow for that, and this would need to be ticked off by the Players Association. And I think the overwhelming view now is that...
Oh, dear. The Players Association.
The overwhelming view is that the new CBA is only 18, 24 months away. We could just wait for then. So I think there's a fair chance it reverts back to the original system we talked about with Mackay and Oscar Allan.
So explain to me why the PA need to tick off on it.
Well, I don't know the exact intricacies, but the overwhelming point here is Ben Mackay wouldn't have got 850 a year by Essendon.
If the compo was going to be pick 12.
Yeah, because North would have matched it. The Bombers would have had to have given up a pick, and the Bombers wouldn't have given a top 10, 15 pick for Ben Mackay and paid him. So to bring that into this year's debate, right now, if Port finished bottom 2 or 3, that's pick 3 or 4 for them. If Butters, let's just say the Bulldogs as an argument, the Dogs aren't going to match a bid, Jeremy Cameron style, give up 3 or 4 first rounders and give Butters 2 mil. So the PA's view is that
The player's the one that suffers.
players are the one that suffers because Butters might
less.
cost $200,000 or $300,000 a year less if the Dogs are forced to match the deal. Oscar Allan wouldn't have got...
Where do you sit on this argument? Do you think that a player getting less money for the betterment of the integrity of the competition is fair and reasonable? Or do you think...
I do, but I can understand why we may not see it brought in this year. Because under the existing rules, you can't just change it like that.
I mean, yeah.
Well, you
sort of can.
Yeah. The other example, Oscar Allan.
I think people forget sometimes the power indifference with the AFL and the PA. Like it's the AFL's league.
Yeah. But Oscar Allan's getting $850 a year at Brisbane. If the Lions had a trade for him, which they didn't last year, there's no way he would have got $850 and the Lions give up a first rounder.
Yep.
Because they would have been able to get Dan Annable in the draft. So my point here with Butters is if the Power finish bottom 2 or 3, they could well be better served accepting the compo pick than going to the trade table, Jeremy Cameron style, and ending up with 3 end of first round compo trade picks.
Yep.
So Butters could be the winner because he might get $2 million a year as opposed to the Dogs, again, for argument's sake, giving up 3 first rounders and then only being able to pay 1.7, 1.8.
Any gut feel on Butters?
Oh, it's still the Dogs, but...
Any gut feel on Ben King, another restricted free agent?
Not right now. I think there's a chance he stays more than a positive chance he stays at the Suns.
Yeah, I'd have him staying. I wonder if the Pies just throw the kitchen sink at both of them.
Well, this is my point, right? So the Pies won't be able to really do Butters.
Because they can't match and give... Yeah, they can't trade.
The best chance for Collingwood getting Butters is if it stays under the initial Oscar Allan, Ben Mackay scenario where Port just accept the compo.
Port end up getting pick 4 for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even which is a bit unders.
Yeah.
That's the other irony of it.
Yeah.
Is it like Ben Mackay for pick... Was it 3 in the end?
Yeah.
Is just like amazing.
Yeah.
But pick 4 or 5 for Butters is like... Didn't they take him at like 12? I think he was 12, Butters. Anyway. But like a first round pick and then, 8 years later you get pick 5. It's like, well, that's not great.
Again, Port could match if they could match the bid. He's a restricted free agent.
No, I know, but I'm saying I understand that the attraction of it becoming pick 4 by itself, as opposed to 3 picks that might be like the Zach Merritt one, where it's late.
And then Port could potentially trade up to get pick 1 or 2, get a player in, and then get Cochrane. Like that could be like a real reset for that footy club.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about my man Mason. But there's another...
Did the Pies uncover the reason why they let go Mason?
Yeah, wow. I was watching that game being like, holy shit. Do you know what my first thought was? My first thought was, gee, Steen and Cox would be a great combo.
I actually did think of you because I thought, and you were big on this last week, that Darcy Cameron, and Craig McRae essentially said this, he's not a centre bounce ruckman under the new system. No, I'm just giving you your dues.
No one ever believes me. He's not a centre bounce ruckman.
He's a very good player.
He's a good player.
Very good player.
No, he's
Best
not.
and fairest last year on a team that ran a prelim.
He's a good player. He's a good player. I don't think he's a good ruckman. I think he's a good player.
I think he's been integral to that team without...
I think he's been a very, very important role player, yes.
But he's almost a 7th defender.
Okay.
for a team that, without Moore and Howe, at times they need to have a bit of coverage. It's a bit air raidy, but
Yeah. Anyway,
But,
what do you want to say about the young Manstein?
well, we've all been scratching our heads as to why they let Cox and Mychek go. I think we got the answer on the weekend.
Oh, you think that they knew this all along?
Well, they essentially said that on the weekend.
Oh, well, easy to say after he dominated and they won.
Yeah, but they see these guys day in, day out. We see them on weekends.
He's been on the list for 4 years.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have kept him around if they didn't think he was worth persisting with.
They took him.
Before Oleg Markov.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just cut you off.
No. Go. And then another spot opened up and Markov got it.
Charlie Dean injured his foot. So Steen got the spot ahead of Steen. Steen got the spot ahead of Markov. And then Markov went and trained at Carlton. Charlie Dean injures his foot, gets put on the long-term injury list. Markov goes from Carlton back to Collingwood and then gets the spot. The second spot, wins a flag,
John Noble gets traded to Gold Coast because he gets dropped for finals.
plays for 3 years, starts a podcast all before Oscar Steen makes his debut.
Hello and welcome to Link. I wonder where that info was coming from.
That big footy brain of his.
Huge.
So, do you accept that trading Cox or letting him go was the right move?
No.
Right. So they got an early 20s ruckman who they might get 10 more years out of.
Oh, because keeping Cox on the list was going to hurt that.
Well, Oscar Steen may not got a chance at all this year.
Yes, he would have. You need depth on your list.
Yeah, but if Cox was there, they probably would have played Cox.
I think you can have all three.
Can't play all three.
You can't play all three. That is factual.
Freo might.
No, they could. No. What? Jackson, Cox, Darcy? Couldn't happen, could it?
No.
Have we got anything else before we go? Who do I need to play into form? Anyone? Or have we got voice notes on that? Link?
Don't think we've got one on a voice message.
Okay. Anyone that's been down that needs to be played into form?
Pick a player at Essendon or Carlton.
Oh, jeez.
The boys got off lightly today.
Where would you?
Well, I think we
with
covered them pretty well after their opening round loss to Swans. Not
So
much
you
has
you were
changed.
big on their recruits. How are they going?
Not big on them. I just think that
You
they.
were big on them.
No. I was big on the fact that they added a point of difference for them, but
How's the
the
point-
age demographics.
How's the point of difference
not
for
well.
Haywood been going?
Not amazing.
How's the point of difference for Ainsworth been going?
Not to the.
How's the point
optimum.
of difference for Florent been going?
Not so good.
Did I say on this pod at the end of the trade period that I thought Florent was at risk of playing twos?
Well, he played twos for the Swans last year.
Yeah, but like if you play twos for Manchester United, you don't play twos for Port Vale. Like, so I think he's been brought in as a point of difference as a distributor off half back. His disposal's not very good. I would think, and by think I mean I feel well informed enough to hazard a guess. They're going to swing the axe at the selection table this week. I think it's officially panic stations at Carlton, by the way, just the way that they're losing.
Well, it's just now.
Yeah.
You've been saying it's been panic stations for 18 months.
No. Well, I've been saying it should be. I think there is now a realisation internally. Anyway, I think Newman and Sard played twos on the weekend. I've been spending a lot of time watching the twos, by the way. Waffle practice matches, VFL.
Wow.
Newman, Sard, Florent can't all play in the same team.
Newman, Sard, Florent. Yep. Go with that.
Do they drop Florent this week?
Maybe. Just what
That
I
would
would
be
say
a
is,
significant, that would be a big red flag.
yeah.
I've been watching lots of maths and there's lots of red flags. This is a red flag.
To my point on Florent, Haywood, Ainsworth, when you bring those guys in and you're 6th or 7th for age and experience,
Yep.
you've got to be playing better than what you are. That's my overriding point.
Okay.
So they are. It's not like
So they're not a young...
this is not a young developing team. Hey, we've got Harry Dean, Jagger Smith, Cody Walker coming. Hey, the future's bright.
Yeah, but to use a Josh Carrism, they would argue they're transitioning.
Well, that's crap.
But they are, though. They're transitioning because they
But then
traded
why-
their good players
but
for
why-
not good players.
But why go and trade Curnow, Silvani, and DeConing and bring in 3 27 and 28-year-olds? That's
my
what I'm
point.
saying. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, their list is... Watching that game on Saturday, I mean, I thought this for a long time, but it's why it was... For me, the person on their list with the most amount of talent is Elijah Hollands. I think on pure talent, now that's like saying Nick Kyrgios had the most talent of any tennis player in the last 25 years. Like it's more about talent, right? But Cripps, I feel sorry for because he's starting to feel the brunt of the physical nature that he's played for the last 10 years. You can see that on the field for me. Walsh was serviceable on the weekend, but hasn't been able to return to the form that made him an OG A-grader.
He's got that on his resume for the rest of his career.
And there's an argument to say that outside of Hollands, their two brightest players are teenagers in Smith and Dean. But there's an argument for that, right? Yep. So all of a sudden, for a team that we were talking about Kernos and DeConings and Mackays and all these guys, there's not a whole lot at Carlton, is there? It's just this weird kind of sense. And yet the coach has never been under more pressure, which is so ironic.
Jeez, Friday's big.
It could be a very bad Friday for Carlton. Are you going?
Not at this stage.
I thought it was a big 7 game that people with 7 stars would be
I'm
there.
doing Thursday night in Brisbane and Sunday night.
What's Sunday night?
Essendon Bulldogs. And I'll beat the G Monday for Hawthorn Geelong.
How did that get ticked off, that fixture? Essendon Bulldogs. That's a hard sell for 7. Even for you guys, that's a hard sell.
There could be a weird fascination about that game that the Dogs get hold of them by 100 plus.
So a macabre fascination.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting sell from you. But I suppose you have to go, you have to sell it somehow. That probably does us for Tradies Season 4, Episode 5.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the air raid.
Happy Easter, everyone. We'll see you soon.